Why does Toy Chica take off her beak? Whenever Toy Chica leaves the stage in FNAF 2, she takes off her beak when attacking us. Many people think this is so that she can actually attack us, since in Ultimate Custom Night, her jump scare voice line says,
"Where's my beak? Lodged in your forehead, of course."
But this technically doesn't solve our question. Since she says she lodged her beak in our forehead, how come in FNAF 2, Toy Chica attacks us by leaping at us with no beak in sight? It's not like the beak is how she chooses to kill us, since she attacks us like every other toy animatronic, even without her beak. This is the mystery behind why Toy Chica removes her beak. At first, this question seems pretty pointless, but isn't it strange how Chica is the only toy animatronic to, for some reason, lose her beak whenever she goes on the hunt for us? On top of this, Cawthon himself said that there's a big reason in the lore as to why this happens. So let's go over everything we know to solve this question. 2014, and millions of people around the world gathered for the release of FNAF 2.
Welcome back to Five Nights at Freddy's, and I am so excited to get into it! I really want to play!
Hype had only grown from the first game's authenticity, and the second game was not about to disappoint the fans. Immediately, players dived into the game to beat each night and unlock every ending. But very quickly, questions began to rise surrounding Toy Chica.
Alright guys, so today I want to talk to you guys about something I found on Twitter again. Basically, he sent me an image of Chica. Now, it's just normal old Chica, and the first one at least is normal Chica. The first one has Chica and her nose, or her beak. And then the second one, when she's jumping out at you, there's no beak. When she's on the stage, you'll see she has a beak. It's perfectly, it's normal old Toy Chica. But when she actually jumps at you, and I actually got this from the game files too, and it's not only in the game files, it's not like something that he decided to take out. If you actually die by her in the game, when she jumps out at you, her beak is missing. Where is her beak? Where does she go that she loses her beak? That's what I'm interested in.
Where is her beak? Why does it go missing? Why does Toy Chica take off her beak when she leaves stage? We can see Toy Chica with her beak clearly attached in the main menu and even in the main stage camera during nights. But for some reason, Toy Chica's beak disappears as soon as she steps off stage. This little detail seems so minuscule and random, but it clearly had to mean something. Cawthon needed this small detail to be clear to the community. But why? What could this possibly mean? Why is Toy Chica's beak so important to the full FNAF story? To solve that, let's take a look at the rest of Toy Chica's design. Because this detachable beak isn't the only difference from the rest of the Five Nights at Freddy's designs. For some reason, while FNAF 1 Chica wore a party bib reading "Let's Eat," this new design strangely had it reworded to "Let's Party." For some reason, this new design of Chica strays away from the idea of an animatronic consuming any food, which, considering the company's past, makes a bit of sense. But that doesn't exactly explain why she takes off her beak, unless we assume that the beak is directly preventing her from eating any food. And we know from future games like Security Breach that Glamrock Chica is uniquely the only animatronic to go out during the night in search of something to eat. Perhaps the beak was designed to not be able to be taken off during stage performances to ensure that Chica wouldn't end up malfunctioning and start trying to eat any of the food in the party. Maybe the beak functioned as a sort of dog muzzle to keep her from causing any harm to food, kids, or parents. But this theory doesn't make any sense. How come we don't see any other Chica other than Glamrock Chica go out to eat food? Or more importantly, how come Glamrock Chica eats that food with her beak on? Wouldn't this design choice have been passed down to future iterations of the animatronic? The pieces of this puzzle really didn't seem to fit together, until under a post made 3 years ago, a reply read, Scott confirmed Toy Chica removes her beak because it's creepy. It seems that Toy Chica's beak was only ever taken off to make her more frightening to the player. So that's it, right? Scott simply didn't find Toy Chica scary enough, so he designed her to not have a beak. But this answer seems too easy. If that was the case, this video wouldn't be here. because in classic Five Nights at Freddy's fashion, things began to contradict each other.
The info just doesn't match up, but it also doesn't make sense as to why her beak would go missing from when she leaves the stage to where she comes to you. It might just be that Scott forgot about it, but I don't really think he would do something like that. I don't think it's just a mistake by Scott, because he's not really known for making mistakes at all. Usually if he does something in a game, it has a meaning.
1 year after the initial release of FNAF 2, the popular theory channel Game Theory went live with multiple other known theorists to come together and reevaluate FNAF's lore. Why this stream is so important comes from the fact that one of the thousands of viewers watching happened to be the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's himself. Seeing this stream come together in an attempt to crack at his story gave Scott Cawthon the idea to give the theorists 3 clues to help them evaluate the FNAF story. And oddly enough, the very first clue seemed very interesting.
Oh my gosh, what is this?
I don't know if this is the one.
Is this on the site? So clearly this is something that a lot of people have screenshotted off the Scott games.
In the FNAF 4 minigame, why would the tiny Toy Chica be missing her beak?
Why would Toy Chica be missing her beak? This doesn't make any sense. Scott himself confirmed that it was only ever to make her scarier to players, yet all of a sudden, he wanted to point a group of the internet's most experienced FNAF lore hunters towards it, and the theorists seemed just as confused and dumbfounded as everyone else.
Is it possible, again, this is completely off the wall, is it possible that FNAF 2 didn't actually happen?
But even though at the time, theorists had no clue what this even meant, we still have a huge question to solve. So let's take a look at the FNAF 4 minigame Scott is referencing. On night 3 of FNAF 4, playing the Crying Child minigame, you run into a girl who stands next to a collection of toys, including a Toy Chica missing her beak. Although this doesn't seem so important, this practically solves the mystery altogether. In this minigame, playing as the Crying Child, you can wander into your sister's room where you find a toy Mangle, which has been specifically taken apart. Mangle is also the one unique animatronic to have been constantly taken apart and put back together in the lore. Now, considering that in the FNAF timeline, these toys were made before the events of FNAF 2, it makes complete sense with the evidence from both Toy Chica and Mangle that the toy animatronics would have been based on their past toy counterparts. And considering that by FNAF 2, the lore implies that Henry Emily, a much more innocent and nicer co-worker to the FNAF franchise, had begun working on the animatronics, it makes sense for him to try and make the animatronics more recognizable to children who had been previously playing with the smaller variants of Toy Chica. Hence why he decided to make the beak retractable, completely mirroring her toy counterpart. And there it is. One of the most confusing questions for FNAF theorists has finally been put to rest. But there are a few plot holes in this theory, so let me know down in the comments what you think. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.